And we're live. Welcome back. Whew, it's been a week. Tired. No, I'm waking up. Glad to be here. This is RockSim Live. I am Tim Van Milligan. We're here to talk about RockSim, RockSim Pro, or the Launch Visualizer. You get to pick maybe one of three, maybe all three. Who knows? I do have the chat going, so if you have a question on rocketry and you'd like to get it answered, I'm here to answer that. We've got a bunch of people in the room so far. We've got Purple Haze, and he says, hello, this is David from Michigan, but he's in Florida right now, but he will be back home next week. Carlos K. says, good day to launch in Marietta, Georgia. Wheelox World says, start the Walk-It engine. Start the Walk-It designing. Guppy Guy says, Richard in Boise. That's a new name. Hello there, Guppy Guy. And California Historical Exploration says, hey, well, that's another name that I haven't seen before, so welcome aboard. This is the rocket train rocket train going to space. I had to get a sip there. If you are brand new to our channel, let me show you my desktop. There it is. We are Apogee Components at apogeerockets.com. When you come to our homepage, this is what you'll typically see. You'll see this banner bar right here, and it has quick links to those important things like RockSim and the Launch Visualizer. The Launch Visualizer is our online version. You can sign up for our newsletter, and I highly recommend it. Every week we put out a great newsletter or a video, a how-to video. So this past week it was a how-to video, and it was about spill holes in parachutes. And next week we're going to have a newsletter article, and I'm finishing it up today to get it ready to go for Tuesday. It's going to be about RockSim Pro and the new features, because there's a lot of people that don't watch this program here, so I want to give them the opportunity to see what's new and to try it out. And there's also going to be a free plan in there, and it's called the CB, so it's kind of a scale model plan, so you're going to want that. So our newsletters, if you wanted to get to the last one, here's the one on spill hole designs, and our latest, or that was our latest video, and our last newsletter was this one here, and it was about computational fluid dynamics and how to run those so you can use the data in RockSim. And there was some really great examples there. This is like the most advanced stuff going on in rocketry right now, and it happens here at Apogee Components, and you get notified of all this cool stuff when you subscribe to our newsletter. And if you want to subscribe, come here to this banner bar and just scroll through it until you see the newsletter. So there's the newsletter. And then if you want to get RockSim 11, you click on this link, and when you do, they'll take you to our buy page. And then there's some information about it. And if you want more specific information, click here. If you want to download a free demo, click right there. There's some tutorials that are here. The system requirements are there. So lots of good stuff on this page. This was our latest revision and what it contained. There was a lot of good stuff in version 11 that came out. And we've done some additional bug fixes since then, and some minor feature upgrades. So those are all in there. So check those out. Our RockSim Live, which we're doing right now, we archive these. And if you go to the home page, you just scroll down here to this image, and you just click on it, and it takes you to the archives. And we haven't updated last week yet. So last week was 196 episode. We're on 197 right now, and it's Friday, March 22, 21. Yesterday was the first day of spring, and I'm still waiting for it. Purple Haze says, hello, Alfred Indy from Michigan, and he also says, I haven't been to a Team 1 launch this year. My mom passed away on January 19th. Well, sorry about that. Purple Haze or Alfred Indy. Yeah, it's always traumatic when you lose a family member. Yeah, I lost both my parents, but they've been gone for a while now. So, yeah, we all miss them. Where are we? So let's get into RockSim. I did get an email from Carlos he had a couple of questions, and let me read his questions. So the first question he has was concerning an Apogee style motor retaining clip. So let's type in clip and see what comes up. Nothing. Engine hook. Okay, so this is what he's talking about, an engine hook that looks something like that. And he says, I have thought of doing it as silver fin and using multiple point curve function to do the non-straight curve bits, but I would welcome better ideas. You could mount the fin through the wall on the motor mount and then use the sliders to position it, and that would be perfect. So basically what he's saying is make a fin that shape and stick it on the rocket. I'm thinking, could you do that? Let's give it a try. I don't think it's going to work, but we'll try it. Okay, so in RockSim, so I got RockSim going right here. Let me see if I got the window. It's all there. Yeah, it's all there. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to select the body tube, the main tube. This one's in German. This was another question that came in. He sent me a RockSim file, so that's why I got it here. But I can't read that in German. I know it weighs 171 grams, and it's a tube, so I can see that. So to make a fin, well, first, let's see if we can make a fin that's that shape. So I'm going to do I better do a pod first, because I know I'm going to have to move it to a pod eventually. So a pod is a place where we're going to attach things to the outside of the rocket. So right now it's attached to the outside, and if I go to the side view, it's attached right here. Eventually we're going to move this to somewhere down here, but let's try to build this fin first. And I'll call it engine hook pod. And we're not going to eject it, so let's click OK. Okay, so there's the engine hook pod, and then we're going to attach a custom fin to this. And it always looks in the database first, so we're going to cancel out of that. All right, so let's go to the plan point. So this, I thought we fixed this issue. What the heck is going on? I know I should be able to add a point. Something clicked up. Unable to place new vertex. Interesting. Why can't I put attach a fin to the, I think it wants me to have a tube. So let's make a tube first. Click cancel there. Go back to that pod. Hit a body tube. And let's choose the smallest tube we had. So BT3. So there, let's try a pod. Click OK. Okay, so let's try adding a custom fin to that. And cancel out of that and go to the plan points. Okay, so now we have a fin. So here's the fin. It's a little tiny green thing, and I don't know if you can see it. So let's change the color. Let's make it red. Okay, so here is this new fin. We're going to try to change that to a shape of an engine hook. First of all, let's make it one engine or one fin so that it looks like that. And then we're going to go to plan points. And okay, let's make this. I'm going to take that point there. I want to go to 2.75. Oh, I'm right at 2.75. Okay. Okay, so there, we'll radius that in a bit. I don't think this is going to work, but we're trying. Okay, so this point right here, that works. Let's make it, oops, undo the last. I want that point there. And make that a 0. And hit tab. I'm going to add another point here. You know, this is a lot of work for something that looks like an engine hook. So I got the back hook there. And I need to put another point right there. Come on, can I put a point there? Yep. Yeah, you can kind of see something that looks like it's kind of hook shaped, right? I'm just guessing right now. It's a little bit short. Actually, that's actually pretty good. All right, so there's a hook. Let's look at it in 3D, what it looks like. Where is it? There it is, right there. Yeah, but it's in the wrong spot. I mean, this is a lot of effort to make something that looks like a hook. And the question is, how much is it really worth it? Because you got to ask yourself, okay, what does this engine hook do? All it does is it holds the engine in place. Does it affect the mass of the rocket? Yes, it does have some mass. Does it affect the aerodynamics of the rocket? Probably not, because it's buried inside the tube. Only the back portion sticks out. And so the amount of drag that it adds is minuscule. So you probably wouldn't even notice it. So, come on. Trying to see what it looks like. Thought it looked hollow there. No, it's not hollow. Let me change the color. I'm gonna make it like a darker color. Purple? Yeah, it didn't help much. it's buried in the front of this fin right here. Yeah, so I wouldn't go through the effort of trying to do this because I don't even think I'm going to be able to move it to where the engine needs to be because it has to be attached to this pod or this tube here. So to add an engine hook, I would just do it the normal way of just using a mass object. That accounts for the mass, and it doesn't really have any drag or lift. So, you know, when you add a part like this, you're technically telling RockSim, this is a fin. So let's change the forces on the rocket because of this item. And it's basically going to screw things up. So let's cancel that. Save your changes? No. So I'm not going to do an engine hook. It's just not worth it. Let me get rid of this pod. Delete. Well, let's leave the pod because this next question is, okay, he wants to recovery wadding, and he wants to make it as a hollow Big Bertha shaped nose cone minus the shoulder, size to fit in the tube, made of paper, and has a khaki coloring. He says, let's make those 3D views fantastic. So again, to put it on the inside of the rocket, we have to, if you want to make it a nose cone, you have to attach it to a pod. So let's get rid of that tube. Say yes. So we still have this pod right here. And we're going to attach a nose cone to it. Now this I can do. I know I can do it. So we're looking for something that looks like an Estes BT60. Well, let's start with that. BT60. And you can see it attached it to the outside of the tube. So that's a start. Let's make it shorter. Let's make it 3 inches. So it's shorter. And then let's get rid of the shoulder. See the shoulder on the back? So he says he wants to get rid of the shoulder. So go to the shoulder tab and clear the values. Okay, so we have that. Okay, and he wants to change the color. So he gave me a color. And his color is 0E68C. Let's try that here. 0E68C. Come on, didn't that work? It won't give me a color, but he says khaki. That's close enough to, oh, I should have put it a 0E68C. No, that's not khaki. I can get khaki like right about there. Okay, so it's khaki color. If you want to do it in the 2D, we can do the same thing. It's kind of khaki-ish. Okay, so now we got to put it inside the rocket. So to put it in the inside, let's go to a 2D. So now you can't even see it, that color. It's too light. We'll make it that color. So now you can barely see it right there. Click OK. Let's go back to 2D here. Okay, so it's here, and we need to put it in here. So you can do that, and you do that by editing the position of the pod, which is right there. And you go to the radial position tab, uncheck these, and then we can slide it down to here. And then we can go to the general tab and move it back to there. So that's wadding. Click OK. And then now we got to change it into wadding. So he wants to make it paper. So let's call it paper wadding. And we'll change the material. to paper. We'll make it hollow. And we'll give it a thin wall thickness, 0.001 inches. And it tells us that's 0.2 grams. So that's 0.2 grams of wadding right there. And so that would be how you do it. Again, that was a lot of effort when you could just use a mass object. A mass object, I can, add wadding pretty easily. So how much did that weigh? 0.21 grams. So I can add, I could basically add wadding to this tube, go to a mass object, and we're going to cancel out of the database. We'll call it wadding. Mass 0.21 grams. And see, it's this circle right there. And we can just move it into the spot we want it for inside the rocket. Click OK. And now we have wadding added inside the rocket. And you can change the color of that to, you can come here. It's got a color tab. So in 3D, I'll make it like purplish so we can tell it apart. And purplish here. Okay, so there it is right there. Click OK. And if we go to 3D, you can see it's inside the tube right there. Here's the paper wadding right there. So either way, you can do it. It's a lot of work. I would just do it as a mass object. RockSim is for simulations. It's like to make pretty pictures. I think there's better things, to be honest. California Historical Exploration says, what engines on Apogee are comparable with an Estes D-size engine? Okay, so this is not a RockSim question. This is a real-life motor question. So the Estes D is a 24 millimeter motor, and it's got about 20 Newton seconds of power. So how do you find that out? Well, first you go to the search bar and you type in D12, and here's a D12.3. Okay, so it actually says it's got 16.8 Newton seconds of power. So this is kind of like how big the tank is inside. And it also gives you the size. It's a 24 millimeter, and these things are 2.75 inches long. So that's what we're looking for. That's equivalent. Okay, so right now it's showing comparable Estes 24 millimeter motors. So you're wondering, if it's not Estes, who are we going to use? So go to Rocket Motors, and we'll go 24 millimeter motors. We'll start there. Okay, so we have an Estes motor. And if you scroll down on this page, eventually we'll get to other motors. And this is all the 24 millimeter motors. So all these are 24 millimeters, and this is the size right here. Burn time, total impulse. Okay, so we're looking for something that is a D. And if we can sort this column just by clicking on it. So right now, if we click on it, now it's doing from smallest to largest. So I'm going down here. And so here's the Estes motors up to the D12.7. And then the closest thing here is an Aerotech D15. It has, here's our total impulse, this column right here. So the D15 has 19 Newton seconds of total power. Even though it's the same size casing, it actually has more energy in it because this is a composite propellant. And it's actually a Blue Thunder propellant versus Estes black powder. So this right here, this D15, is the closest motor. But it's a reload motor, so it requires propellant and a casing. So this is the propellant, and if you want the casing, you click here to 2440. So the next one, if you don't want to go to a reload, let me open this in a new tab so I can show you what a reload casing looks like. Okay, so this is what the casing looks like. And we're actually sold out right now, so you can get the propellant, but there's no casings. So when the question is always asked is, when are you getting more? And the answer is they're on order. And then you say, well, when are you getting more? Well, then you click here to the back in stock notification, or you can click on this little question mark right here, and it says, when will it be back in stock? When you click on there, it takes you to this video. And basically the video says, I don't know. I wish I did, but I don't, because I don't control Aerotech's production. You know, we order, but they don't ship. See, nobody in the industry has this shipping guarantee except for Apogee. So we have a shipping guarantee that says out the door the same day. So if you order today, it's going out today. Although our shipping guarantee says if ordered by 2 p.m., and right now it's 2:28. So it's not going out today, but it would go out the next business day, which is Monday. Nobody else has that. Aerotech doesn't have that. So when we order from Aerotech as a vendor, they ship it whenever. And I don't know when that is. It drives me nuts because I know I can't serve you if I don't have the products in stock. And they don't give us a date. They take our order and they collect our money, and then eventually they ship. But it's not always when we want. It's rarely when we want. So the next motor available that's the closest would be a Quest D22. It's also 24 millimeters in diameter, 70 millimeters long, which is 2 3/4 inches long. And it has a total impulse of 19.3 Newton seconds. So again, you're getting more propellant in that same motor. And it comes in a 2-pack for $19.76. And this one is in stock. So we do have these in stock, and you can tell right here it says product is in stock 10 plus. That means we have more than 10 of them, more than 10 2-packs in stock. So if you want this motor, and this is what it looks like, it's a composite propellant, but it has a nozzle down here and the igniters look a little different. So you just slide that in there. They work the same. They work with your same controller. They work in the same rocket. So this, in my opinion, is a really good alternative. I'm happy with the Quest stuff. Those motors are actually, they're good. They're good. They're nice motors. I have no problems recommending them. Terry is asking how to design a rocket boat in RockSim, and the answer is I can't do a boat because it's not a rocket. Guppy Guy says, I love RockSim. Is Launch Visualizer included or separate? I can access it, but it is the limited version. Currently, I'm designing a BT60 dual stage and a 3-inch dual stage. The Launch Visualizer is separate from RockSim. It's not included. But it is included in RockSim Pro. So there's 2 versions that we sell as desktop machines, RockSim Pro and RockSim. So down here, so here's RockSim, which we've been designing rockets so far. And then here's RockSim Pro. So I got them kind of side by side here. And if you kind of notice, they're very similar. RockSim Pro, if I put them like on top of each other, you'll notice there's a couple of extra buttons up here. There's this button right here, and then there's this button right here, which is our newest button that just released like 2 to 3 weeks ago. And RockSim Pro does have the launch visualizer in it. Let me show you I keep grabbing the wrong one. So the launch visualizer is when you click here on the trajectory button, instead of opening up a 2D trajectory, it's going to open up a 3D trajectory. And it's loading everything right now, so that's why it's taking a little long. Still loading. Stuart Greeley is here. Man, it's taking a long time to load. People are talking back and forth there. But my RockSim, oh, it's loading on a different screen. All right, so this is the launch visualizer inside of RockSim Pro. And I can zoom out. This is our launch pad in Pueblo, Colorado. So the launch head is right here. All these black squares are individual launch pads. These are our high power pads, our H pads. The low power stuff is done off of this concrete slab right here. Our J and K motors are here, and the bigger ones are out here in the field, so that we get the appropriate distances. So right now, we have a rocket sitting on a launch pad, and that rocket is right there where my cursor is. And when we launch it, you'll see the rocket taking off, and it's billowing smoke, and now it's coasting. And this green line here is the trajectory. I'm going to pause it right here, and I'm going to zoom out so we can zoom out and kind of get a better idea of what this trajectory looks like. So this down here is a compass, and I can rotate it around. I'm going to try to put north at the top. Okay, north is at the top. And I can also rotate it by holding down my mouse button and kind of get it looking at a different perspective. So here's the rocket, and you can see the maps in the background are still loading, so this blurriness will kind of go away over time as it loads stuff. You'll notice off here in the corner, it's starting to be a mountain. So we are in Colorado, we do have mountains. And if I move this way, I can see the mountains. Here's a reservoir right over there. So this is the launch visualizer that's built into RockSim Pro. Now we have a different visualizer, and the other one is on our website. It's called rocksim.com. Let me open up a new browser window here. And I'm going to close RockSim Pro just to get rid of some memory. Actually, I want to keep that. Do you want to save changes and cancel? Just minimize it. Okay, so if you go to rocksim.com, open that up. Now this is the online version that everybody has access to, and you can do this as we're talking right now, just rocksim.com, and this is what it looks like. And when it loads, there's already a rocket sitting on a pad, and this kind of gives you the lay of the land here. North is up this way, east is this way. This is kind of a generic pad, and we do this just so that this loads faster than all those maps that we saw previously. So we do this to just kind of get things set up, and then we switch over to the maps. So you can, there's 3 different versions. When you log in, I am on the highest level version, obviously. We call it the premium version, but there's 2 versions and then the premium version. So the 2 free versions are the basic one that you just saw when you just first come in. And you don't need to give up your email address to use it. You can just put in, select one of, I think there's 6 rockets you can choose from and launch it from our launch site in Pueblo, which is what I just showed you earlier. If you give up your email, there's still a free tier, but it costs you your email address. And we don't spam, but we need your email address because we need to partition some space on our server that's specific to you. That way you can upload your own rocket files. So instead of having just 6 rockets, you can have dozens of rockets that are yours. And so you upload them into our server. And then it also allows you to pick where on Earth you can launch from. Instead of launching just from our launch site in Pueblo, you can choose whatever your local site is. It's on the planet. As long as it's on planet Earth, you can launch there. Even if it was from the White House lawn. in virtual RockSim, you can launch there. So that's the second tier. The second tier is also, but it's limited to Apogee. So the rocket will only go up to Apogee. You won't see it come back down. And the other thing that it's limited by is you can only launch up to I believe it's a G motor. So you can go up to a G motor. If you want to do high power, you got to get the premium version because those those simulations, they take more computation and it costs me money. So I have to charge for it. And you also get the maps of any place in the world. So those are the 3 versions. Since I've logged in, now I can choose a design, and I have uploaded a whole bunch. There's probably close to 100 designs in here right now. So here's a rocket flamethrower. You select it. You can see it's drawn a 2D version right there, but this one right here is 3-dimensional. And this was designed in RockSim. So the Launch Visualizer allows you to do simulations, but it doesn't allow you to design a rocket because that's more computationally intensive. So to design a rocket, you have to use RockSim or RockSim Pro. So if there is a free demo version of RockSim, and with that free demo, you can design your rocket, and then you can upload them to the Launch Visualizer. So here I've got a rocket sitting on the pad, and now we'll make some adjustments to it. I'm going to change the starting state. And you can see right now I'm at launching straight up, and I can grab this little slider bar here. And you can see I've tilted my rocket. And if you look closely, I've tilted it, which direction? To the north. Because right now it's pointed to the north, and if I change it to the east, you can see down here that it's rotating around as I move my slider. So now I'm going to be launching to the east. And then I'm going to choose my launch site. So here is where you get to pick any launch site in the world. It always starts at our default web launch site in Pueblo, like I just showed you earlier. Here are the boxes for our high power pads. Our low power pads we put on this concrete slab. If you want to choose something different, you just zoom out, find where you are on the planet. Okay, I'm going to swing this back around to the north. So it's kind of like more of a map. Okay, so here's the United States. All these little thumbtacks are club launch sites. The red ones are NAR, the blue ones are Tripoli, and the green ones are just kind of people that said, hey, I launch here. So let's say you wanted to launch in Missouri. Am I in Missouri or am I out of Missouri? Oh, I'm in Arkansas. Here's Missouri right here. Let's go Poplar Bluffs. Okay, so I'm looking for a launch site near Poplar Bluffs, so I'm zooming in. What I'm looking for is a nice grassy area that doesn't have a lot of trees. All right, so here's a nice grassy area. So let's zoom in right there. That's a beautiful area right there. I can see some houses. but I think it's big enough. Like, I want to launch right there. So you double click right there, and down here it says confirm launch site. So click on that, and what that does is it locks in the latitude, longitude, and the altitude of that point above sea level, which stands for ASL. So now I've got a launch site, and before I said that I'm going to angle it to the east, or kind of the southeast, by 17 degrees. Then I'm going to go set my weather conditions, and I'm going to just change the wind to a steady wind at 4 miles an hour. Click OK. And that wind, I don't know if you saw it, but the wind is coming out of the west, and it's blowing this way at 4 miles an hour to the east. We can change the direction. I don't know if you saw that down here, but that little arrow that told us the wind direction, it's changing as we're changing this right here. So when you get the wind in the direction you want it to go, click OK. Choose an engine. This is a cluster rocket, and I'm going to choose an engine. And these are 24 engine code. Here's that Quest D22 that we were playing with earlier. Let's choose a 7-second delay. Click OK. So it loaded it in one, and I'm going to load it in the other just by clicking Load All. So that loaded the D22-7 in both motor mounts. And at this point, it's ready to launch. So when you're ready to launch, you click this little launch button right here. It says click launch here. You can see the arrow is pointing at it because some people couldn't find where the launch button is, so we added an arrow. So you click to launch it, and it's going to say, hey, I'm going to use 40 credits of power. Each credit is worth 1 Newton second. That's where we get that number. And my account currently has 5,000 credits, so 40 is nothing. So I'm going to simulate, and it's running the simulation in the cloud. You don't need to load any software here. And I'm zooming out. Remember, there's our launch site. And let me swing north back around to the top, so that kind of matches what we looked at earlier. And our launch site is right there in this beautiful, nice green field. That's a huge field. And we click the launch button over here, the play button, and you'll see the rocket's taking off. It's going up. It's arcing over. And it's in the sky right now. And now it's so small I've lost it. But I can see in the mini view it's starting to descend. And let me pause it right here. I'm going to turn on the trajectory. So come up here to settings and come down here to the trajectory path and extruded flight path. And click OK. And you can see that it added these lines. So the green line is the trajectory up. The red one down here in the bottom is the ground path. So if you walked looking straight up at your rocket, and if you walked this path, that would keep the rocket right above your head. And then these vertical lines are, we call them extruded lines. It's kind of like a curtain that's hanging from the trajectory down to the ground. And it kind of gives you just a three-dimensional perspective of what this rocket is doing. So that red line around the ground, you can see where you'd have to walk to stay underneath the rocket. Right now the rocket is starting to come down. You'll see there's more lines right here than here, because each of those lines is 1 second apart. On the way up, the rocket is moving very fast, but once the parachute opens, it's descending slow. So all those lines, it's not moving very fast horizontally. But then you can grab the time slider here and just kind of speed things up and actually find out where it's going to land. So right now we're going to land right over here, and it looks like we missed these trees. There's our rocket on the ground. And it says our distance from the launch pad is 642 feet. So not too bad, you know, like about 2 football fields away as the crow flies. And you can see your rocket from different angles. The launch visualizer is phenomenal. I mean, I'm still amazed at it. This is a beautiful launch site. It's too bad it's not public property. Not that I know of anyway. But it didn't prevent me from launching there because when you're in the virtual world, there are no rules. Rocket Ron says, greetings from Hawaii. Stuart Greenlee is here. He says, Tim, hey, Wheelock says, hey, how do we create a launch lug, a T-lug, and a rail button in RockSim? Well, the launch lug is pretty easy. So I'm going to quit out of this. Okay, so here is RockSim. So there are buttons. I don't know what the heck this thing right here is. It looks like some kind of cancer. It's probably some kind of camera. It says a backward camera, 22 grams, plus 5 grams of bevacizing, whatever that is. I don't know what that is. Let's see if we can do a Google conversion. I clicked on the wrong thing. Save changes? No. This one. It's this thing hanging off here. I know it's a backwards camera. Come on, open. It kind of froze. My computer's acting really slow right today. Trying to go too fast. I was looking at computers online today, and I think I found the one I want. I'm afraid to see what the price is, though. It won't let me edit. It's still kind of hanging for some reason. I might have to force quit. It says it's responding. Won't let me edit that. Oh, it won't let me scroll up or down either. So I think it is locked out. Let me do this. Force quit. Let's see what happens. Finder, RockSim, force quit. All right, let's open it up again. Ron's Rocket says, usually Hawaii is as big as Alaska on maps. Yeah, it all depends on your perspective, doesn't it? Let's see what we got here. I'm just going to open this design right here. Okay, so if we go to the rocket design components, to add a launch lug or rail button or a T-lug, you start by adding it to a body tube, and you come over here. There is a button for launch lugs, so you can click on that and you can select the lug, or you can create your own. So I created this lug right here. This thing is huge. It's the outside diameter of 0.61 inches. So that's like bigger than a half inch, bigger than as big as a dime. So adding a lug is pretty easy. Let me click OK. Let me go to 3D view. And we zoom in, and you can see it is hollow. So that's a launch lug, and those are easy to add. So the hard ones, or the question is, what does a rail button and a T-lug looked like. So we call the T-lugs, we call them rail guides. A rail guide, let me go back to the Apogee website. I'll type in rail guide just so you know what I'm talking about. Come on, and go here. Rail buttons. Okay, so here's the universal rail guide. This is what they look like. Some people call them T-lugs because it's kind of a shape of a T. But you just glue them on the outside of the rocket and they go into a launch rail like that one right down there. So that's kind of what they look like. Unfortunately, in RockSim, there is no button over here other than launch lug. So how do you do that in RockSim? Well, you got to cheat. You got to say that a launch lug is going to be similar to a rail guide, or a rail button is going to be similar to a launch lug. And so you would add the launch lug, and then you would edit the properties to match what a real one is in real life. So the length of it's not going to be that long, so it's going to be shorter. You know, it might be like that, and the location might be like right there. This one has a mass of 0.748 grams. This rail guide has a mass of 1.9 grams. So ours in RockSim is a little bit light. So you can change the material here, maybe make it polystyrene. Still not heavy enough. Polycarbonate, that's better. Aluminum, there we go. So we've kind of matched the weight, and so that's what you would do for both a rail guide or a rail button. It doesn't look like a rail guide or a rail button in the three-dimensional world. This is kind of similar to what we did earlier with the engine hook. It doesn't look like it, but it will function like it. So now this one, you do need to add something to the outside of the rocket because it does add drag. And then your next question is, how much drag does it add? And I'm going to refer you back to that newsletter that I talked about earlier. So if you scroll down here to this newsletter 647, you click on that. And if you click on the HTML version, you can come here, and because this one, you can see there's a rail guide, a rail button, and a launch lug on the front of the cover. And I'm scrolling through it here trying to find the image. Not a really good image. Oh, here it goes. So here's a rail button, a rail guide, and a launch lug. And the question is, so here is the information on launch lugs, rail buttons, and rail guides, and how much CD they add. So a launch lug has a CD of 0.5, a rail button has a CD of 0.51, and a rail guide is just a little bit lower than the rail buttons. But they're all pretty close. So using a launch lug would be okay in RockSim for a component that simulates a rail button. So we can get away with this. It's going to behave in real life like a rail button because they're all so close. As long as we match the weight, we're going to be fine. I didn't want to tell you that, but because I wanted you to go to the website and actually read the newsletter because it's good stuff. Save your changes, no. Let's see. Do I still got RockSim open? No, I want this one. So I had a customer. Let's see if I lost that. I think I did. Oh, here it is. Okay, so save your changes now. Okay, so here's that rocket I was looking at earlier. And a customer called up and he says he ran his simulations. So he ran that simulation. I'm going to double click on it. And if you double click on it, it brings up the detailed flight report for that simulation. And he had a question. And his question was, maximum data. So what he did was, okay, so if you look back here, our maximum altitude for this one is 2086.7, and that should show up here in the max data values. So that number matches right here. But if you go to recovery, it's different. This recovery data is different. Altitude at deployment was different. I'm looking for ejection. Okay. He had ejection data that was different. And his complaint was his ejection data and his maximum altitude were off. And let me see if I can show you why. Okay, so let me open this up, go edit. And the way he has this set up is he's got his one parachute to deploy at Apogee and then another parachute deploying at an altitude of 505 feet. So this is dual deployment. And he's launching straight up. This is actually a 3-meter long launch rail. And he's got weather conditions that it's like fairly calm day, less than 5 miles an hour, 4.5 miles an hour approximately of wind. And then when you go to launch, my numbers are going to be a little bit different because mine are a little different. I am looking for maximum altitude. Now our new, my parameters have changed. My wind has changed, and where I'm launching from has changed. So that's why it doesn't match these numbers here, but it does give you some idea of what's going on. Okay, so this one, oh, that matches. Okay, so that recovery altitude at deployment. So there's two parachutes in this thing. There's parachute number 1 right there. Oops, parachute number 1, and then there's parachute number 2 right here. And they deploy at different times because it's dual deployment. And they're okay. So what he's saying is the engine ejection charge data, where the ejection charge goes off, was at 2115 versus 2127. So that was his question, is why are these two numbers different? My maximum altitude is 2127. And that's the point where I said deploy the parachute. And then what he comes down to here for the ejection charge data, and this one shows 2115. So, you know, it's kind of like 12 feet different for this one versus that. And why that discrepancy? He thought it was a bug. So let me show you what's going on here. So if we plot this one as a graph of thrust and altitude, you can kind of see what's going on. So at the end of the data, plot graph. Okay, so here is the altitude. So the rocket goes up, hits the apogee point right here, which was 2127, and then the ejection charge happens right here at a lower altitude. So what is going on there? And that's his question. And what's going on is that the ejection charge, it's like when he set this up, cancel. When he set this up, you'll notice he's got an ejection delay of 10 seconds. Let me change this to 20 seconds. And we'll rerun the simulation. And you'll notice that most everything stays the same. And I'm not sure, it should have been exactly the same. But again, my parameter, oh, I know what happened. Before I did edit, and this time I just did a launch. So my conditions between edit and launch are different. And you're probably thinking I'm crazy, but that's what happens. And if I plot this one out, you'll see the same graph. You'll see my new ejection charge is down here. So it's way past apogee, but you'll notice it's on this, you see this nice straight line right here? Well, that's the rocket coming down under parachute. And when it comes down on a parachute, it's coming down at a constant rate. And that's a constant rate is going to give you a nice straight line. So before, this blue line here was slid over to here. So what's happening is, yes, indeed, the parachute is being deployed right at apogee, just like it said in our flight events. But then when the ejection charge of the motor goes off, the rocket's already coming down on the parachute, and it's still firing the ejection charge. So basically, it's kind of like the ejection charge is just blowing out through a hollow tube. It's still there, it's still firing, but because the parachute's already out, it's not changing our descent rate at all. Nothing's happening. It's just blowing out into the atmosphere. And so that was his question, and why he was seeing his ejection altitude was different from his peak altitude. He was thinking that the ejection charge was pushing the parachute out, but that's not the case here, because we told RockSim deploy that first parachute right at apogee, and it did. It popped out right there. Why do we get this little arc right there? And the reason for that is once the parachute opens, the rocket has some velocity, and you don't see the velocity here, but let me plot velocity. But the velocity is actually a horizontal velocity. So X velocity. And let's change the color to purple so we can tell it. Plot the graph. So we've got this velocity here, and it's, you know, and it's a positive, or actually it's a negative number, but it is non-zero. So here's velocity, here's 0 for velocity. So as the rocket's going up, oh, this is horizontal velocity. So as it's not moving very fast, it's actually got a negative velocity, which means it's arcing into the wind. And and then it reaches a peak velocity here right at motor burnout, and then it starts slowing down as it's arcing over. And that makes sense. As it's arcing over, it's got more air resistance, so it's slowing down. And then right here, all of a sudden, it just changes dramatically. And that's where the parachute came out. But it was a non-zero number right here. Because of that, it had to slow down. And so that's why when the speed changes, you get an arc instead of a nice flat line like this. Eventually, it reaches equilibrium speed, and then you get a nice straight line. And hopefully you understood what I said. This is real rocket science that we're talking about here. You know, when we start going to the graphs, we're in the nitty gritty. But it can explain a lot. So that was a question that came in. He thought it was a bug. It's not a bug. It's just a misinterpretation of what the ejection charge does. We told RockSim to eject at Apogee, and it did. But we also gave the motor an ejection charge, and it was just telling us where in the flight that ejection charge was firing, even though it wasn't doing anything. So that's kind of like the short explanation. Guppy Guy says, what is the altitude for upper winds when setting launch parameters? That's a good question. It depends on where you're launching and what the winds are. I use a website called windy.com. And this will give you wind speeds at various altitudes. So you can see all these little arrows. So that's the current wind right now at ground level. So here in Colorado, we don't have much wind. It's very low, and you can see these color. You can't see them. Let me move this up here. See if you can see it now. It's under my face. Let me change this, make it smaller. There we go. So here's the wind speed down here. And the blue region is low wind speed, and when it changes color, it's a higher wind speed. So right now, I'm in Colorado Springs, and it's like almost 0 knots of wind. In other parts of the country, you know, like over here, we're in the red zone, so it's really high winds right here, and you can see the arrows are just blowing. In the windy city of Chicago, it's also pretty windy today. And this gives you, this is wind at ground level. Where do I change it? I know you can change it somewhere. You can change it to different altitudes. Somewhere in one of these settings. Oh, right now I'm clicking in Des Moines, Iowa. And it gives you wind speeds right here. Where is the altitude? I played with this before. I thought there was a slider bar. Wind. Used to be here, where you could see the wind at various altitudes. But basically, that's what you're going to need. You're going to need some kind of data that you can put into RockSim for your winds at different altitudes. RockSim Pro has multiple layers, where RockSim just has one, and it's ground level. And it just assumes that anything above ground level is the same as at ground level. Okay. So yeah, we've gone long, so I guess I gotta stop, even though I'm having so much fun. It's fun to talk rockets. Alfred Indy says, create a flag on the map and then adjust the slider bar. Create a flag on the map. Oh, okay. I already closed it. But he's saying basically, you know, put your cursor where you want it, and then a slider bar will show up. When I just had the entire map of the United States, it couldn't show everything. So it's only like at your specific location. That makes sense. Thank you, Alfred. All right, so that is our episode for today. I decided that we will be back next week. And I've already made the reservation on YouTube. I've already scheduled it. So same time, 2 p.m., Friday afternoon. It's going to be a busy day because I've got some people on my staff that are taking off, and I already know that next Friday we're going to be like short staffed. So I might be answering the phone. So, yeah. So we'll see you then. So I'm going to give you a countdown and we'll get out of here. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go out and launch something.